Hi guys, welcome to Parrot Playhouse. My name is April, and this is Thomas, my lilac crowned Amazon. This is gonna be a really hard video. So that's why Thomas is here. But then part of what has happened has to do with Thomas as well. So my channel is about sharing my experiences that I have with my birds, right? So you guys can learn from it and don't make the same mistakes, because I don't want you to have this pain like I have, because it's terrible pain and it's something that is with me in the morning and it's with me at night. It never leaves me, and I wake up, in the morning, like at 3 in the morning. For a second it feels, and then all of a sudden it's back. So this is about my green winged macaw that you guys have never met, my Mona, and there she is. I look like so different in that picture, but there's Mona, there's baby, and then there's me. Back then, she was my first rescue, and back then I didn't know birds needed rescue. I didn't know there was an unwanted bird crisis, and maybe it wasn't as bad then as it is now. And so I've learned so much in the last 15 years since she's passed away. But I gotta tell you, on her anniversary every year, which is now, it hurts so bad, and that's why I want to share her story with you, so this doesn't happen to your birds, right? So she was in this pet shop and they had her labeled as a scarlet macaw, and I knew that was wrong, and so we made a deal for a very low price. I brought her home, and little did I know how sick she was. I shared a video talking about how she had psittacosis, and she ended up passing away. She was my rescue, and I only had her for 6 months, but she left such a place in my heart. Psittacosis was not what killed her, but what killed her was a walnut shell. And she loved walnuts. She was a macaw, and a tiny little sliver. She ended up swallowing a tiny little sliver, and it ended up rupturing a hole in her intestines. And she was bleeding internally. And now back then, this is 15 years ago, and let me tell you, medicine has changed as well. So if that would have happened now, maybe we would have been able to save her. But I do have to say, she had a top vet. She had the vet that saved Victoria Cockatoo's life. They had to give her a blood transfusion. They did all kinds of things to keep her going, trying to figure out what was happening. And at the end, when she passed away at the necropsy, we found out that it was a walnut shell, but then we also found out she had a bunch of other things going on with her from, neglect and the treatment that she endured. Mona was basically an ornament that sat outside in a round cage, and she spoke Mandarin. She was so cute when she would speak it, but she was an ornament. And I remember that's what the pet shop told me, and she was there on consignment. This was a bird that suffered neglect for so many years, and it broke my heart, and it's another reason why I have this channel, so I can educate people. Yes, Thomas, it's bueno. So I can help educate people so something like that doesn't happen to another bird like it happened to Mona. Because if people know how to do things, what these guys really need, they're gonna do better. I honestly believe that people want to do the right things, and if they know, they're gonna do the right things, right, Thomas? Yeah, because there's a lot of good people out there, so we just gotta find them. After Mona died, I was beyond distraught. I only had Baby and Puffy and Pierre, who's also gone. He passed away from stomach cancer. He was Puffy's twin. And that was terrible, and it was around this time as well. I was so angry. I was so upset. This is 15 years ago, and I said, I'm never getting another bird. Now, we know that didn't happen, right? Because this whole room is now full of birds. And 6 months after Mona passed away, and I gotta tell you, I cried every day for 2 years. This is how it affected me. It hurt like no other. She was my first parrot that I would ever lose, and since then, Pierre has passed away, and we all know Bailey has passed away from old age, and it just tears you apart when that happens, right? So I was so upset. I said, there's no more birds. 6 months later, what happens? He needs help, right? And that's another story. Because walnut shells are so sharp, it scares me when people use them at the bottom of the cage for the poop, because number one, you can't see the poop, and it's so important to do a poop inspection every day. And number two, what happens if your bird swallows it? These guys are toddlers, you guys, and it's just basically, would you trust a 2-year-old with a hard candy in their mouth? No, because they can swallow it, right? It tastes good, and you don't know what's going on with the bird. It could be nesting time, something could be going on, and all of a sudden they decide to swallow it. So it's something that I'm so careful with Victoria. I don't want her swallowing anything, and I have given her walnuts in shells before. Maybe with what happened with Mona was a freak accident, but then I started hearing that there were more birds that this has happened to. So why take the risk, right? When you can give it to them like this, you know, like there's other things that you can give them that'll strengthen their beaks. And then also pine nuts in a shell. You know, Don Scott from the Chloe Sanctuary, he is the cockatoo whisperer. He's amazing. He has actually had cockatoos that have had pine nut shells inside of them. So he gives it to them out of the shell as well. So like, why take the risk? We love you. And we'll end it with a picture of Mona. She's